Good evening, this is Kara with the Ministry of Uncover No More. I just released an article on my uncovernomore.blog in the new form that I'm saying that I'm using, which is I'm going live with my story now, but I want to cover everyone in love that has been through what they've been through in my life. I demand that of myself, despite all the negativity that has been directed at so many of us. I think it's time, particularly in light of the lessons we are learning from the pain of the COVID-19 pandemic. I think it's time to demand kindness where kindness is due, and let bygones be bygones across generations. So the article that I just wrote, as I was in a special place of mine with a dear friend there, had to do with me reminding someone older. This is what my oldest 5 and I went through, and can we remember the faithfulness here? Because there's some infighting going on in many families. So if it's Beaty-Coffey, if you try to put me at arm's length and say, oh, no, we don't know what you're talking about, we don't go through that, which I have people do that, I'm going to call your bullshit. I'm going to call your bullshit, because the one thing that we need to do is listen to Barbara Streisand's people who need people. And the one thing you need to do is admit it, admit where people have screwed up against you and where you've screwed up against them. I mean, you don't even have to be a Christian to appreciate the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So maybe you don't believe in the paranormal and the unseen and the spiritual and the angels and high-powered testimonies. Maybe you don't believe in that, even though we're real. Jesus really was born of a virgin. It's a miracle, and there's been many, 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 many miracles since then and before then. But there's also been a lot of misuse of spiritual places. So it's a beautiful world, but good must overcome evil. And that's tricky to continue to pontificate upon, but also have a good and beautiful life privately. So in the article, this mirror image perspective is going to go, because I have been saying this in league with some of the older people in my life that are being hurt by younger generations. And I have this to say to the young people across the board. Yes, we have been living in a very difficult society since 1950. There has been a lot going on in America. And I want to say to those younger than me, you would not be there complaining, judging your parents, trolling, getting negative. You wouldn't be there without the suffering and the victories that went on before. Now, right now, I'm having to just cut off Republicans and evangelicals from my life. But I'm going back to church because my core, in this almost 55-year life, I've been to Christian churches the longest. And if you try to stay away from what, I've been in churches since I was 7 years old. If you try to stay away completely, I can tell you it produces more pain. But to go back into churches for me took a lot of preparatory work because I'm not going to explain that. But what I am going to say is that I have people in my life that are younger than me. So does Curtis. So does many adults that I know, even the ones that are like MAGA, that are forgetting the suffering of parents, grandparents, and whatnot, that brought you to this place. And if you forget that, if you continue to lack respect and forget that and not come back and say, I was too hard on thus and such of the older generation. I was too hard. If you forget entirely and just go along your merry way, you will regress. I can guarantee it. Because a lack of an appreciation for the real history, not what's in the books as far as how successful America is, that's bullshit. In other words, when the Constitution was written, it should have encompassed the right to vote, the right to bear arms, the right to personal freedoms for all skin colors, all men and all women, and their children through them. Women did not get the vote until after the black men got the vote, and then women got the vote. And white women were not as persecuted back in the day as the black people as a whole. So it's really, really frustrating right now, isn't it? Okay. But our frustration does not outweigh the glory and the mystery being revealed and the universalism being revealed. You know, the Democrats have had their issues, but right now they have the purest word in the federal and state governments. And that word is, let my people go. Bernie Sanders. Let my people go. Pharmaceuticals, Wall Street, all of you. Let my people go. Not me, us. No justice, no peace. And when those of us use the hashtag no justice, no peace, particularly the hashtag BLM, we're not talking about violence in the streets. I think everybody is forgetting Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X right here. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about here. Don't ever lack respect for the suffering of 3 and 4 generations behind you that brought you to this place. And we have forgotten. Now, I have had to encourage older people to say, you have forgotten the faithfulness of these children. So it goes both ways. I wrote the other one. I'm videoing this and putting it on YouTube. Because the young people in this day and age have been shaken to the core by social media. They know how to think, y'all. They are intelligent. They're beautiful. And they have forgotten that. And I don't know that is the parents, the faithful parents, so much as it is the social media outlets, which are very, very strong. They must be disciplined in all of our lives. I've struggled. Been picked apart by people being too negative. The narrative in the Christian world is still pretty negative. It's still pretty judgmental. And, that doesn't mean I'm not going to get a thicker skin and go back in. And I'm going to basically say, you want to spout some rhetoric to me in a church building, I will give you both barrels through my verbalization. You need to shut the fuck up. No. Lesbians are not going to burn in hell forever. While you heterosexual pure couples are going to be in heaven doing your jobs with Jesus. That's not what it is. And y'all need to drop the old rhetoric and you spout it in front of Beaty-Coffey, and I will kindly take it apart. But that doesn't change a lack of respect in places where some of us we've moved away from the Christian church because of this rhetoric. The rhetoric I'm talking about, and we're still getting hit. We're still getting hit. Doesn't matter. My father-in-law died when my second child was a baby. And beautiful man. And one of his famous statements was, no good deed goes unpunished. And there's some people in our 50s right now, and we maybe used to be Christians, or some of us are going back. Some of us are like, hell no. We are definitely in this role of no good deed goes unpunished. I have been through more than the 12 years of my situation where people found out, oh, that's just not Kara. There's a testimony in there. And that woman, what's the deal? It's been longer than that where I've been trying to encourage people, both young and old, this is too negative, we're too negative, we're too negative, we're too negative. And I was in the Christian church, and they don't quit. It's either that or syrupy sweet. You don't get much in between. Well, that's why I'm going back. Some of us, let me tell y'all something. And I've got an immortal on Twitter that I'm finding out used to be a pastor. So I'm going to put that on Runestones and Music Today, because that dude needs a break, just like I do. I'm going to throw runes for what he's posting tonight, because he's talking to Christians and basically saying, what's the matter? What's the matter with this? I'm on the other side going, I know exactly what's the matter with that. And here's how I'm going to close this. Okay, so what does Beaty-Coffey do, who's been in Christian churches since she was 7 years old? First off, I'm going to quit using the word God, because everybody, whether they're atheists, agnostics, Baptists, Catholics, Pentecostals, megachurch constituents, Buddhists, Hindus, Muslims, or street people, when they call out to God, it's male. That one has a penis. Pagans are about the only ones, and they actually go pretty far female, and I just am like caught in the middle, y'all. It's just caught in the middle, because I don't agree with any of it. I don't think we should lift up either sex in our thoughts of deity, and there should be no sexuality in it. And the pagans are guilty. They've got too much sexuality in what they do. I'm going to turn my light out so you can't see my face anymore as I close. So I'm going to use the word Lord, and it's going to be in all capitals. And what I'm going to be saying when I pray, when I implore God, and see, I'm going to have to remove the word God out of my vocabulary. Habit removal, no matter which walk of life you are in, habit removal towards more purification of your spirituality as you evolve is what I'm talking about. That is all extremely positive. That is all extremely positive, what I just said. I am going to be my positive self henceforth. I have been pulled down. I have been torn down. I have been disinherited. I have been hated on. I have been all kinds of things, but I've also got some love messages in my life that I'm going to tack into, because I have a thicker skin. If there's one thing that post-Christians can do at this point in our lives, because we don't deny that Jesus 2,000 years ago had a huge miracle. Now, there's a bunch of joking going on. Why'd the Father let that happen? Well, you know what? Get a grip. Get the fear of God. Understand where parents and grandparents and great-grandparents sacrificed for you to be here. Asking that question in a lighthearted manner that's not funny to me. I'm not into joking about my spirituality or yours. I am zealous for your love of yourself, your fellow human, and your fellow spiritualists, some of whom you cannot see, because there is the unseen world of mystery. We are going from glory to glory. And so I'm going to train myself to use Lord, not to use God and Goddess, because again, there's some sexuality that the population is too hurt. Lord is better to invoke. Great Spirit is more appropriate in America than Holy Spirit. Great Spirit. Lord. And the King of Kings is within that. That is one man. I admitted in my first book, or my second one, I could start crying right now, the emotion coursing through my veins when I wrote that. And then it was destroyed the same month that asshat abominated the White House for 4 fucking years. You hear my zeal? That is not mother zeal. That's just zeal. I remember admitting that I knew that I should have been on the cross next to the King of Kings, and I should have been the one still railing at him because I am the fucking person. The female form is the fucking person that accepted temptation first. I admitted that. But it's time for me to stand up as a girl and say, I forgive that tendency in a woman, whatever it is, and I personally never had it. And people have tried to get me to turn from my testimony. And they failed. And I love them. And I failed them some getting here. And they love me. So that's love. And I encounter that kind of love every day. Regardless of the negativity coming out of people's lives around me, regardless of the negativity that I have to encounter on social media, regardless of the negativity that churches seem to be spewing a lot of, regardless of the sin coming out of all kinds of places. Just point blank moral sin against children, against women, against men that we have to deal with every day. But we've also got to start hugging each other in the midst of this. And I'm really good at that everywhere. So there you have it. There you have Beaty-Coffey of the Ministry of Uncover No More, whatever you think this is. This is going into a blog article I just pushed out for Uncover No More. And I promised the world of America that I would start sharing my real testimony again. Well, there you have it. I'm about to go grocery shop and go home. Okay. Now I'm normal again. You heard some zeal. I don't know what to do with that 4-year, whatever that was, because that wasn't a presidency in my line of thought. But go ahead and scream at me because you liked him, okay? Go ahead, scream at me. I'm going to hug you still, whoever you are. You make no sense to me. That doesn't mean that you don't have a body, soul, and spirit and that I don't love you, okay? I hope somebody can look up from your pain and say, you know what? I do remember the sacrifices made for me, and I remember the sacrifices I've made for others. I remember me. And if you can remember, created in the image of God, a little bit of you, then you can look up and you can say, Lord, therefore, I remember you, even though I can't see you, and even though you're not male and you're not female. And I don't know what you are, but I remember you because we're here and we're keeping going. And evil is not going to overcome good. We know that. Somewhere deep in that core of ours, we know that as human beings. And if you don't, I'm sorry. Listen to me, because I am telling you the Lord awful truth. We need to keep standing. We can't figure it out. We've proved that over and over. But we can, one baby step at a time. Good night, world. Sleep tight.